have a show for you guys. I know that there has been some crazy stuff happening this week, but Inside the Gators is back for another week. We are doing this podcast. We are going to recap everything that's happened. If you don't know, if you live under a bus, which I say this every week because people don't know, head coach Jim McElwain was fired this week. So if you're mad about that, if you have any opinions about that, you can either turn off this podcast, you can go read a story about it first on ITG, probably written by Andrew Olson, and then resume listening to this, okay? That sounds like a good deal. Okay, you know who it is. It's Courtney Mims here we're back. We're a group again, guys. We're back with Andrew Olson and also Joseph Hastings of InsideTheGators.com. I am so excited that we're all here to talk about this because we have lots of topics to cover. We have a big show. We have a big podcast. So let's get right into it. So Coach Mac was fired on Sunday. Yes, folks, this is not the end of our season, right? Oh no, we have how many more games do we have left, guys? I think we have like 4 or 5. 4 now. I think if I'm counting right. 4 or 5? 4. Let's go with 4. Let's go with a hard 4. And, our head coach is Gonzaro. I made up a word there. Gonzaro. He's out of here. There's a lot of thoughts and feelings. I'll keep mine right in here until they get unleashed by Andrew's and Joseph's comments. I promise they will, guys. I promise you'll hear it. But let me get your opinion. How do you guys feel about this firing?
Yeah, it was, like you said, a crazy week. We saw early last week that there was tension between the athletic department and McElwain after the death threat comments. That was really odd, the Monday statement.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. If you listened to our podcast last week, we talked about it.
He offered no further details, and then Friday and Saturday, you start seeing these stories. This is going to be the last game, win or lose, and that was just...
And that came out right before the game. Yeah. I was literally on the field, and my phone starts buzzing from ESPN saying this is his last game. And people, when Coach Matt got off the bus, this is an insider scoop for everyone. When Coach Matt got off the bus for Gator Walk, I was taking photos and, covering it, filming it. And all of a sudden, I hear behind me, your last game. People are chanting. And I turn around thinking it's Georgia fans going, oh, they heard the news. It's Gator fans. People, this is a PSA to anyone who did that. I will come for you because seriously, not cool. It was not cool. Sorry, sidetrack. Now back into your rant, I promise.
Where were
I'm sorry. I had to say it. I was waiting to say that on this podcast because I was so mad about it. And I was just like, stop it, guys. He's just a person. So, yeah.
But anyway, I think one of the unfortunate things was that, Sunday it did happen, but we had reports from, I believe Football Scoop was the first outlet. And then, of course, it was all over social media. And you had players like, Luke Del Rio tweeting, oh, that's great. We're finding out from Twitter that our head coach has been fired. So that was kind of a mess Sunday. But, it's the way it happens. Florida wanted to move quick. I don't think the death threats are the whole reason he was fired. But like Scott Strickland said, more than wins and losses. So I think those comments, were kind of maybe the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. I think there was tension. There was some uneasiness about the direction of the program, especially with the product on the field. And I think once Florida saw a path to start negotiating the buyout, they went for it.
They won the Eastern Division in the SEC the past 2 years with Coach McElwain, and you thought going into this year that the Gators would at least have a chance to win the SEC East. We never thought that they'd be able to compete with Alabama. But you thought that they'd be able to build.
Well, they've done it twice now. Seriously.
Yeah, you thought they'd be able to build upon it, but then Georgia started to come up, and they had back-to-back bad losses against Texas A&M and LSU at home. You wanted to win those games, and they were so close. LSU was 17-16, Texas A&M was 19-17, and then what happened, like with Andrew said, with the death threats, it just seemed like the losses started to pile up and that room for being able to make those mistakes like the death threats or to be able to not be as good offensively, there was, he was on a shorter leash than he was going into the season. And my mentality has always been winning cures everything. If the Gators were 6-0 going into that Georgia game, even if Coach McElwain said the thing about the death threats and offered no additional details, in my opinion, the Georgia game wasn't going to determine whether he would be fired or not. Winning is a huge aspect in this business, and Coach McElwain wasn't able to win this year. Granted, he did have suspensions with Antonio Callaway, Jordan Scarlett. He did have injuries with Jordan Sherritt and Marcel Harris, but in the end, the losses started to pile up. That leash became a lot shorter, and it all ended last week. Just a crazy week.
Well, I think you're right, and I think the other thing is that nobody really wants to talk about is that I think he wanted to leave. When I saw that post-game press conference after the Georgia game, that was a man who wanted to leave. He wasn't answering questions for the press. He was doing his next job interview. And I'm seriously saying that. Some people might be mad that I'm saying this, but I truly believe that he walked into that press conference, answered questions like he was answering them for a job interview. And that's something that if you go across and ask any college coach, look at that interview, they'll tell you the same thing, that he was interviewing for his next job. He wanted to go. At that point, he knew he was leaving. He wanted to go. It was done. His leash was getting thinner and thinner on his players. I mean, how many guys, Antonio Callaway, how many strikes are you going to give the man before he has none left? Yet you gave Will Greer 1 strike. Yeah. These are things that people can argue with me on, but here's the thing. Your leash was growing thinner and thinner. And at the end of the day, hey, if it does that, if you don't have a control over your team, you're gonna be gone real quick.
And look at the look after the game too.
Oh,
there
yeah.
was a photo taken. I forgot.
Oh my gosh, he was smiling,
he was
right?
Smiling and look,
kissing his wife, and you know what? That's not how you act after a loss. I know. I come from a coaching family. My dad, you do not want to be around him when he goes through a loss. You do not want to be around him because he's so upset.
Especially in one of the game's best rivalries,
exactly.
Florida, Georgia, and you show up 42-7. Come on. That was a bad look.
And it was a bad look for him. And in that press conference, those questions were answered, quite frankly, very good for Coach Mack. Very good. Yeah. Because he was interviewing for his next job.
Except he did not answer. He was asked, "Do you still want this job? Do you want to be here?" And his answer was just about how Florida's a great job. He didn't. Yeah. He didn't actually answer.
Thank you.
That he wanted to be here. I definitely saw it, and I wrote this. I saw somebody who knew it was the end when after that game, he wasn't really trying to defend himself or make any pitch for his job. When he's faced criticism in the past, he's pointed to getting to Atlanta 2 years in a row. After that, after the Georgia loss in that press conference, he was like, "Yeah, you know what? The offense has sucked. We haven't won enough." He was admitting.
Yeah, I agree totally. Well, moving forward, he's gone, and we, rip Coach Mack. So sad, too bad, but we've got to move on. That's sports for you, right? That's sports for everyone. Randy Shannon moved up into the interim head coach position. Interesting, because y'all know how I feel. We were talking about this before the podcast a little. I don't know how much I would have done that if I was in Strickland's position, because I would have said, if we just keep everyone where they were and just pulled a new coach in, we don't have any other coaches on our staff. Wait a second. We do. We have an amazing coach, a former player, a winner on our staff. The HBC. And you know what? I saw an article earlier this week that was saying he wanted to help this year. He wanted to offer his help. He offered his help to Coach Mack, and Coach Mack turned it down. First of all, why would you turn that down? Second of all, why would you not put him as interim head coach? Now, granted, I understand he might have not wanted to, but you could have at least offered it to him. You could have at least tried. I'm a little bit bitter about that. But anyways, let's talk about Randy Shannon. What are things you guys like about him? You guys went to the press conferences, earlier this week, and so what did you guys feel about this decision?
I thought it's going to be very interesting to see how Randy Shannon performs for the rest of the year, because if we're looking at it, he doesn't really have much to lose, does he? They got 4 games left. At this point, they're trying to make a bowl game, which really wasn't the expectations going into this year at all. So he's going to try and mix up some things. We've seen some changes in practice. Before we would open up with the warm-ups and then we would have fastball. Now we're starting to see perfect plays and, the 2-minute periods and individual drills, which is very interesting. He's also opening up the competition in practice.
Or closed it, specifically,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's going to be interesting because, he's talking about the quarterback position, getting some more competition. So does that open the door for Malik Zaire to start this week at Missouri?
The answer is it does.
Yeah,
the answer is it is going to be Malik Zaire. I believe I saw a quote from Randy Shannon saying he wanted the quarterback position to go to someone confident and who cares about it a lot. And I said, you know who that doesn't sound like? Felipe Franks. You know who that does sound like? Malik Zaire. And I said, that's it.
We'll find out tomorrow morning, probably. That's what Shannon said today, I believe, on the teleconference.
Yeah.
He wants to make that decision. So he'll try and shake some things up. He'll change some things in the offense, in my opinion, and try and get the Gators to, do things differently than they've done in the previous 7 games this year. So I'm very interested in seeing what Randy Shannon does this year, and obviously we know he's not going to get the head coaching position after this year, but I definitely want to see what he does in the interim role.
Yeah, I mean, Shannon obviously named for continuity's sake. This whole staff, offensive and defense, can keep doing what they've been doing. You brought somebody like Spurrier in, you don't even know what kind of offense you'd be running, maybe.
And we only have Coach Mack to blame for that one there, because he could have been in practices, could have been helping. Just, this is my little shade going, okay? This is my little shade time.
Yeah, Randy Shannon shaking things up, changing practice. We saw, they were playing music at practice the other day. That was something different. That was something a little fun. He's emphasizing, trying to make it fun for these players, trying to take their minds off, I think the big switch, get them focused on Missouri. Shannon, he's trying to make a good impression for the media. He's trying to make a good impression for everybody. He's taken a very business-like approach. He opened his first press conference. He opened by talking about Missouri. He didn't even talk about what a big deal it was for him to be, the head coach at Florida. So it's going to be interesting to watch Randy Shannon. He's probably auditioning for maybe a head coaching job somewhere else, especially, if something opens up on the carousel. He does have that prior head coaching experience at Miami, and like Joe said, I don't think he'd be considered for Florida, but, 4-0, somebody else might go, hey, maybe this guy deserves another shot.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. We'll see. I read an article early in the week because I actually didn't know Randy Shannon, his former coaching experience. And I was like, I want to read up on this guy. And I was reading an article about why all the things that happened when he left Miami. If I'm not going to go into them on this podcast because you can read them yourself, okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, pause this podcast, go read the articles. There's multiple from different sources, so don't worry, it's not biased or anything. And then you can continue this. But I just think it would be interesting because that's the last time he was a head coach. All that stuff happened. Then he came to Florida, and Florida took a chance on him, not in a head coaching position. It'll be interesting to see how he treats this because it is like a trial run again for anybody else who would consider hiring him. So it's interesting to me. Again, y'all know if I was AD right now, Florida, I'd be popping Spurrier in, keeping everyone in the same role, and saying, "Hey, win some games. Let's distract the fan base a little bit because you're just gonna come in and do what you do, Spurrier."
It's going to be interesting to watch if whoever is the next coach, if they want to keep Shannon on staff. This is a guy who's considered an expert at coaching linebackers. He has coordinator experience, and he has a lot of recruiting connections in South Florida, which will probably be key to whoever is the next coach. you can go through this roster and probably half the South Florida guys are probably committed, probably signed here because of Shannon. So
do you think that's going to affect what Coach Mack has done with recruiting? I mean, because here's the thing, that hashtag all by 18, throwing that hashtag out there. I mean, he's got a not bad recruiting class coming in, especially with a quarterback that can maybe do some damage on the field, Matt Corral. And I feel like that, I know a lot of them are saying we're still committed, but do you think that's going to change at all now that Mac's gone?
It's hard to tell because you don't really know what their commitment status was like before McElwain got fired. Were they all in, or were they looking for some other offers as well, evaluating some other schools? So some of those kids who maybe were on the brink of choosing between Florida and another school, but had already verbally committed to Florida, may pull their commitment. It's encouraging to see that to this point, we're on Wednesday, we're on November 1st. We haven't seen anything yet, but it's only been a couple of days. But that's encouraging that we haven't seen those commitments pulled. But
yeah, but it's still so far. I mean, they still have tons of time. And what a lot of people like you were saying, hey, it's great to see that they haven't done it already.
Yeah.
But a decision like that isn't done in a week.
All probably in wait and see mode.
Yeah.
Anytime you get rid of a coach, you're going to lose some of the players committed to him. It just happens.
But how bad is it going to be? Yeah. That's the question, We can afford to lose some of them. Maybe not the QB we're bringing in. Yeah, right. I can see where you're saying and what you're saying with that.
And Scott Strickland said a key to the hire is going to be that early signing period in late December, so 20th, I believe. He wants a coach in place before then. So I expect not long after the FSU game, days coming, we'll be hearing about a new coach at Florida, and he'll be trying to recruit. And new coaches, they tend to keep a few staffers, so the best recruiters will probably have the best in for trying to stay on this new coach's staff.
Very true. All right, moving on from all of those questions and everything. I think we covered a little bit for you guys, maybe not in depth. But let's talk about the Mizzou game, because that is this Saturday. Oh, yeah. Oh, in all of this, we have to play on, the Gators have to play on Saturday. What do you guys think are some keys going to be for this Saturday? I think we saw a very weird team against Georgia. I know that's weird to say, but I also felt like everyone was a little bit down in the dumps playing. I think that's just how it was. To be honest with you, they all kind of heard the news. I mean, Coach Mack came out hugging all the guys and, from the locker room. I think there was a different dynamic.
Tons of penalties.
I know. And I think it was a different game than normal. So I know. I just want to point out as well, if you go to last week's podcast, I said the score was going to be 45-7. What was the score, gentlemen? 42-7. So I just want to put out there, everyone that doubted me, everyone that thought I wasn't going to be close at all, screw you, okay? Because I can say that on here. That's not going to be cut, because here's the thing. It's true. I did it, okay? Sorry. Little interlude. Let's go back to Mizzou talk now. But, yeah, what do you guys think? What's going to be our keys?
It's going to be a very interesting challenge for the Gators secondary. They've always labeled themselves DBU, Defensive Back University. But we got a young DBU going up now. We already lost Marcel Harris. That was at the start of the season. But then, seeing Nick Washington go down as well, that was a tough loss. Duke Dawson is really the man of the secondary right now. He's got to be that leader. He's got to guide, the Marco Wilsons, the Chauncey Gardners, of the world. And he's got to be the leader of that secondary. So against the Missouri passing team, a passing game that has really lit it up in the past 5 games. Their quarterback, Drew Lock, has had over 1,600 yards passing, 20 TDs against only 3 interceptions. I mean,
he's not bad. Yeah, he's not bad.
This may be our biggest challenge of the year in terms of a passing game we're facing, because Georgia had 2 great running backs, and Michelle and Chubb. So and then Texas A&M was a good running team as well. So this may be our toughest passing daunting test that we're going to
totally.
have to face in that secondary. So that's going to be the key to my game. How does Florida's pass defense match up against Missouri's pass offense? And what will I'm going to go on the record and say it. I think Malik Zaire is going to start.
Oh, well, I do too. I don't think anyone is in disagreement with you, sir. I think he will be the starter.
So I'm looking to see how the offense changes around him, what they do, what positions they put him in. Are we going to see any, rush pass options with Malik Zaire? Is he going to be able to have the ability to hand it to LaMichael Pirine or Mark Thompson, or take it for himself? And then also, speaking of Mark Thompson, how much of him are we going to see? Randy Shannon talked about his expectations, with given his size, his speed, what he can be able to do for this offense. So we're going to see more of him in the absence of Malik Davis, who's out for the rest of the season. So I'm very interested.
Well, Pirine went off last game.
Yeah.
I think even though we did not do well, Pirine had a game. And I really do think maybe with a different quarterback to change it up, I think we can see some other players light it up, like Mark Thompson, like Pirine. Please have a game, please. But I just hope for Zaire to be comfortable. Please. If there's one thing I want to see Saturday, it's a comfortable quarterback. I've been saying this for the past 6 weeks, people. I just want to see a comfortable quarterback. What about you, Andrew?
Let's see, Joseph.
Oh, he has his notes. Guys, you guys can't see this, but Andrew is ready. He has his notes. He knows what the Florida Gators need to do Saturday. Ask this man. He knows, okay? Sorry.
Just adding a little bit of context and stats to that. We talked about Mizzou having a great passing attack. They have the number 2, 3, and 4 wide receivers in the SEC in yards per game.
Oh, don't tell me this. Oh, gosh. I'm just kidding.
And Locke, as touched on, he's number 2 in passing yards, number 2 in yards per attempt. It was number 2 in yards per game, my bad. Number 1 in the SEC in passing yards. So this...
Oh, okay. Well,
this is the number 2.
Well, I'm sweating a bit. I'm sweating a bit.
And when you get to team stats, Mizzou, they're polar opposites. I mean, their offensive stats are all great. They put up a ton of points per game. They can run about as well as Florida, and they throw a heck of a lot better than Florida. Their defense gives up, a ton of yards. Their scoring defense is number 12 in the SEC at 35.8 points per game. Rushing defense, number 10, 192 yards. Passing defense, number 13,
wow,
260 yards.
These stats aren't making me feel any better, I'm just kidding.
I was rattling off bad numbers from Mizzou.
But they're still not making me feel any better. I don't think you understand. I really don't feel good about this game. Sorry, I don't know if I can say it enough, but I just don't feel comfortable.
Has to hope they can get a passing game going against this defense. Mizzou's not a strong passing defense.
Oh, yeah.
Not a good defense really at all. If there's ever a game for the offense to come together and for Doug Nussmeier to maybe say, look, McElwain was holding me back.
Yeah, please. I want to highlight that. Please, Doug Nussmeier, turn around and say, yeah, Mac was making all those calls. It wasn't me. It was Mac. So
there's been a little bit of chatter that Zaire is kind of Nuss's guy.
Oh.
We'll see.
Interesting. That's an interesting development. Well, all right. Real quick, because we're getting up at the 23-minute mark, and I want to make sure everyone who's, still listening gets this last part, right? Score predictions. Can you guys beat me this week? That's the real question. Can you guys beat me, all right?
Hey, I predicted 21-17 Texas A&M.
Okay, that was close. It was close. I'll give you that one. So there's one for me, there's one for Joseph, none for Andrew. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Give us your score predictions real quick.
All right, I'm actually somewhat confident in this game. Yes, because Missouri's 0-4 in the SEC. They're only 2-3 at home. They've lost to South Carolina, Auburn, and Georgia as well. So, I'm somewhat confident that we can go in. I'm going to say it's going to be a high-scoring affair because, like Andrew mentioned, Missouri's defense really isn't that good. I'm going to go 33-30 Gators. I know I'm going to kind of go out on the limb and say that the Gators are going to be putting up their second most points for the season because I think we scored 38 on Vanderbilt. So I say we get 33 this game, and Missouri gets 30.
Very interesting.
I think they rally together, and the Shannon changing it up shows up a little bit on Saturday. I'm saying 27-24 Florida.
I don't know. Those stats you gave, Andrew, do not give me any confidence. But you know what? I also am going to be with you guys. I have faith in Zaire. If he's a starter, I'm going to put my faith in him until he, breaks that faith in the first quarter or whatever. I'm just kidding. I'm going to go 27-20. And the Gators. I'm going to pick the Gators to get 27. So,
but can we put in a stipulation in case Felipe Franks does start?
Oh, okay,
if
fine.
That happens, I'm picking Missouri to win.
Okay, me too. If everyone, for the record, me and Joseph and maybe Andrew, you in on this? If Felipe Franks starts, we all pick Missouri. Okay, our numbers completely flip. Okay, we're good. It's on the record now. We've got it. Well, I hope that you all have. You guys are crazy. What are we talking about? Everyone's gonna be like, really? You guys are horrible. We're not listening to your podcast. I'm just kidding. Well, we hope you really enjoyed this podcast, and as always, we hope you engage with us on Twitter, social media. Keep the conversation going. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure that we're talking about the things that you guys want to hear on this podcast. So, real quick, my Twitter is @MimsCourtney.
@Joseph A. Hastings.
By Andrew Olson.
And this has been another podcast from Inside the Gators. From all of us here, we hope you have a great weekend. And I don't know if I can say this, but go Gators.